The sun beat down on the dusty road as a man in worn boots and faded overalls walked into town. His clothes smelled of soil and sweat, and his hands carried the marks of years of hard labor. To many, he was invisible, just another poor farmer who would never amount to much. Yet behind those tired eyes was a heart that carried stories of hunger, heartbreak, sacrifice, and an unshakable resilience that life's storms could never crush. What no one knew was that this same man, mocked for his humble appearance, was about to shake the ground beneath his critics' feet in a way they would never forget. Before we dive deeper into this powerful journey of struggle, humility, and unexpected triumph, if this story touches your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Stories. Every bit of your support helps us keep bringing you stories that inspire and remind us of the strength of the human spirit. The farmer's name was Samuel. He had grown up on the very land his father once toiled upon, a small patch of fields on the edge of a forgotten town. Life was never kind to him. His mother passed away when he was young, and his father, worn thin by debt and disappointment, left Samuel with little more than a broken tractor and the burden of unpaid bills. The boy who once dreamed of becoming an engineer was forced to drop out of school to keep food on the table. For years, Samuel worked the soil with blistered hands, plowing fields that gave little harvest, and fixing machines with scraps when there was no money for parts. But Samuel carried one thing many others lacked: patience. He believed the earth rewarded those who did not give up on it. Each season, though his crops were modest, he saved a little money, often going hungry himself to ensure the bills were paid. When neighbors laughed at his patched shirts and rusty old truck, he remained quiet. He knew that dignity did not come from appearances but from perseverance. Time and again, life seemed intent on breaking him. There were nights when storms destroyed his crops, and he sat alone in the dark barn, head in his hands, wondering if fate had already written him off as a failure. There were days when the bank threatened to take away his land. And still, he worked. Still, he rose at dawn, his faith stronger than his fear. Years passed. Slowly, Samuel's little farm began to change. With his careful savings, he managed to repair equipment, expand his land, and grow healthier crops. He made deals with local markets, providing fresh produce when others failed to deliver. The man who once had nothing but debts and despair was now building something real, though the world around him still refused to see it. One afternoon, Samuel drove his battered truck into the nearest city. He needed parts for his tractor, and the dealership was the only place that carried them. As he walked inside, his muddy boots and old jacket caught the attention of polished salesmen in pressed suits. They smirked, whispering to each other, making jokes loud enough for him to hear. "Looks like someone came straight from the pigsty," one sneered. Another laughed, saying, "Bet he can't afford even a bolt, let alone a tractor." Samuel said nothing. He purchased the part he came for, ignoring the laughter behind him, but inside, the sting of humiliation cut deep. That night, as he sat on his porch watching the sunset, Samuel thought about those men. He thought about every person who had ever mocked him for his clothes, his truck, his struggles. He thought about how society measured worth by wealth and appearance rather than heart and integrity. And in that moment, he made himself a quiet promise: one day, he would return, not for revenge, but to remind them that humility is not weakness, and true strength never needs to boast. That promise became his fire. Over the next decade, Samuel worked harder than ever. He expanded his farm, invested wisely, and even bought lands that neighbors abandoned. While others wasted fortunes on luxuries, he lived simply, pouring every extra cent into his dream. Eventually, Samuel's farm grew into one of the largest suppliers in the county, producing not just crops but dairy, livestock, and grains that supplied entire towns. By then, his savings had grown into wealth, quiet, unassuming wealth that he never flaunted. Then came the day he walked back into that dealership. But this time, Samuel wasn't there to buy a part. He was there to buy the entire place. The same men who once laughed at his clothes now stood in stunned silence as papers were signed. Their smirks faded when the humble farmer, still wearing his worn boots and weathered jacket, became their new boss. Without a single word of revenge, Samuel had silenced them all. His success spoke louder than any insult ever could. But Samuel didn't stop there. Instead of firing those who mocked him, he transformed the dealership into a place where dignity mattered more than appearances. He created job opportunities for struggling families, offered fair prices to farmers like himself, and built a legacy rooted in humility and kindness. The man who was once seen as less became the one who lifted others up. Samuel's story reminds us that the world often judges too quickly, valuing image over character. Yet in the end, it is perseverance, kindness, and quiet strength that win the longest battles. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment below with the words, "True strength is silent," to let us know you watched until the end. And don't forget to share this story with someone who needs a reminder that humility is never weakness.